April 8th, 2025 regular Planning Commission meeting is called to order. The time is 6:03 p.m. Before we begin, commissioners, please put away cell phones. If you have personal business during the meeting, please move for a recess. If you are participating telephonically, please mute your phone unless you are speaking. Also, when speaking, please state your name for those streaming the meeting. As a reminder to attendees, this meeting is being streamed live. The camera is located in the back of the council chambers above the clock. Will the city planner please call the roll?
Thank you, Commissioner Seals. Commissioner Brown?
Present.
Commissioner Seals?
Present.
Commissioner Langell?
Present.
Commissioner DeYoung?
Present.
Commissioner Stafford?
Present.
And Commissioner Seals, you do have a quorum with Commissioners Brown, Seals, Langell, and DeYoung, and Stafford present in the chambers.
Thank you. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Commissioner Brown, will you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Yes, sir. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. The first item of business is approval of the agenda. Before changes are discussed, are there conflicts of interest to declare? If the commission would like to discuss anything under the consent agenda, such as the minutes, they need to be removed from the consent agenda and placed under new business at this time. Are there any changes to the agenda? Hearing no changes to the agenda will stand as presented unless objection is raised. Next on the agenda are reports. Do we have a report from City Planner Wellman?
Thank you. This is City Planner Wellman. I wanted to note real quick, as we were doing the opening here, it reminded me that we had a discussion during our training regarding one item that we needed to add to the beginning of our script. And I need to ask you really quickly, or I can go back and listen, but I do believe that there was one thing. Does anybody happen to remember? If not, I'll go back and listen, but I believe it had to do with conflict or something along those lines.
We talked about there's a conflict of interest, but then we also are subject to being able to show impartiality. So if it's a topic on the agenda that, and even the appearance of impartiality, it wasn't even actually if you were going to be impartial or not, but it was even if you were going to have the appearance of impartiality. At least I remember that point.
Yes.
So, and I'll triple check and I'll look for some wording on how to put that in there correctly so we can add that.
Just a suggestion, the borough, their manual has excellent. Theirs is 3 different subjects under any conflict, so might make your job easier just to read theirs, see if it fits in with ours.
Let's just plagiarize it.
Yeah.
But it works to do that. And in fact, with that being said, I have looked at their order of agenda as well. And in fact, that's what City Clerk Newman was referring to. And it may have been the city attorney as well, talking about perhaps separating the two into the 2 parts. I liked that idea, and when the time comes, but I'm open to ideas, suggestions, because I think it would really differentiate between the 2 sections and being able to.
Yeah, I was just looking at the Matsu agenda borough. And I noticed that, I guess either they've always done it and I've never noticed, but I noticed that there was quasi-judicial matters, legislative matters, so.
And it helps for the public, I think, really. So yes, copying is a sincerest form of flattery.
Yes, it is.
Thank you. So like I mentioned last time, I thought it'd be a nice way to keep you informed of things that are happening in the planning department. I go and speak as a liaison at the city council meeting, but you don't often hear what's going on in the planning department. So I thought I'd give you a quick update. And let's see here, some of the things I really can't go into as much because I don't want to potentially have any situation where, something comes before you as a planning commissioner, so I do decide to leave those things out. So you'll notice me kind of going from thing to thing here. So just a quick update. I don't have anything new with addressing at this time. Business licensing and tax. We've had a lot of meetings via phone, video, and in person with the MuniRev's business license applicants to discuss possible land use permits that they may need in their next steps. Code compliance, I'm going to kind of leave that one off right now, but we do have ongoing issues that we are tending to, some which maybe you'll be hearing about in the future. The comprehensive plan, Deputy Administrator Nygaard is working as a project manager for the comp plan. We're working on some next steps for where we're going with that project, including some things with survey and some participation in some upcoming shows. Deputy Administrator Nygaard has also prepared a list of community events for Dal to review and incorporate into a timeline. So let's see, next we have a miscellaneous section. Kind of an ongoing theme is a continued cleanup of some situations, abandoned permits and projects from our citizen serve, as well as when we even open up a property file. Sometimes somebody is just applying for maybe a home occupation or something, and next thing you know, oh, well, I see that this house was maybe supposed to get a permit back in the day. And we've had to be very careful because on one hand, we don't want to, when somebody comes in to get a home occupation permit, well, next thing you know, oh, hi. We want to be very welcoming and say this is not a punishment situation. Let's just get it so that everything can move forward and quickly. I won't hold anybody up. We try and move things forward as fast as we can. Been meeting with the attorney on some outstanding items, including some unresolved code compliance issues. We're establishing a new shared Excel file to keep track of the items so we know where we stand on and can move back and forth easily. And that was something that Deputy Administrator Nygaard had initially set up. So thank you for that. So the big news in my world is we've had to establish, and I say this in a lighter sense, so to speak, a triage situation in the office, in that the level of busyness is like, I can't even quantify. Well, I can. I can quantify it right now. Last year on April 28th or 29th, we were at about 38 permits. Right now, right when I walked down here, I think I saw 101. Not all of those have been completed, but they will be most likely, most of them, or a lot of them, by the end of the month. So we're going to be almost triple where we were last year. Well, not triple, but we're pretty high up. And so because of that, we've just had to identify red, yellow, and green and just figure out, how best to handle it. Everybody's important. It's just a more of, where can we fit this in most effectively? I approached the mayor at the last staff meeting and asked if it would be with her permission if I could utilize Deputy Administrator Nygaard's assistance. And so we had a permitting party here this last weekend, and she got in and saw some of the struggles that we see on a daily basis. A lot of real manual procedures that we have to do that I believe that with the new ERP in place, that some of this will be eliminated, combined with the rewrite of Title 16. With that, however, will be some new challenges in that, we're developing the new processes, figuring out how things are going to work with that. So thank you, though. I really appreciate that. And it wasn't just the permitting party. That sounds, silly, but it's some other things that she has assisted with as well. Some phone calls and emails. One of the things that I'm working on right now is we started preparing an MOU/MOA with AML, the Alaska Municipal League, for some planning services. And what that's going to do is, it's going to provide some extra guidance for me for some of these bigger permits, such as the two that we just had. But also, it's a second set of hands. The AML already went out to, they have already done the portion of going out to bid and, well, I guess it'd be a review of qualifications for the planning services. So we're hoping to have this agreement with them so they have some services available with them in office, but then they also have the second set. That's the set that we're going to be using as well, so we can just go straight in and just move forward, because we're really are at a triage state at this point. It's way above anything that this department and it's just me a lot of the time. So so that's the big thing, but it's exciting. We're moving forward with that. And I mentioned in the meeting, I want to say on record here, just a huge kudos. It wasn't just, it's been all the staff that's been helping us. Every single department, for example, Maureen in our business licensing department, she's the tax auditor. And she, because of what she does, she has an intimate knowledge of our department, and she's been able to, make some of the phone calls, the initial phone call, and sending out the permit instructions on how to start the process. And then I go in after the fact, and I'm able to do that. Along with our Public Works Department, who they spend a lot of time, and this is a part of the job anyway, but they spend a lot of time reviewing these permit applications to make sure that if it's a restaurant that's coming into like a commercial tenant, to make sure that there's the sewer capacity or things along those. They have a review step in our process, so I gave a huge thanks to them, because they're busy. Everybody else is busy too. It's not just me. That affects every department. So let's see here. Kind of said a lot of the permitting and licensing things. One's really interesting. Having a lot of some of the pre-application meetings that I'm noticing, there's been really interesting changes in use. So if you think about Basil Ginger, and that was a restaurant on the bottom and some residents on the top. And some other ideas where people are really getting creative and trying to incorporate some really novel ideas. And I'm actually pretty excited about some of the things that are coming forward and seeing what you think about them. You may have received today, and if not today, you'll receive a notice tomorrow that I just sent out a use permit. I won't talk about it here, just know that you're going to be getting it. It is, and then the way that the use permits work, this is the part I brought it up. The use permits is kind of the halfway point, where normally administrative is just kind of over the counter. I still have to go through our list of criteria and be able to say, does it meet all these things? Public Works weighs in, everybody weighs in, but it can just be, I issue the permit. The use permit takes it up one level. We do that preliminary step, but then I do the 1,200-foot radius, and I mail it to all of you guys and our reviewing parties. So where I'm interested in is to see, because this will be our first use permit, if I start getting comments back, that's when potentially, and that's why I'm not going to speak very much more on this, that's when it would then be forwarded to the Planning Commission. And at any time, I can elevate a use, actually any permit, I can do an administrative permit, but I can elevate a use permit at any time. But when the comments come back, and if there was something that was of material nature, not just like we were saying, like, oh, Bob doesn't like Tom, but if it's of a material nature, then we do take that into consideration and it would be elevated. So, and then the really, really big one is that we have tentatively scheduled, this is the hope that everything is going to go as planned, but we have received the permit application for a hotel. And that will be conditional use permit 25-03. And that permit has been turned in. The notices have not been mailed out yet, but because it has been turned in, I can now officially say that it is public knowledge. So we'll be moving forward with that. Hence the request for planning services assistance. So our next Planning Commission meeting is going to be on April 22nd. And we do, just as for staffing purposes, we do have Julia, who's out of the office right now. She will be back on the 21st of April. But we do have Mary who's back. So if you haven't met Mary, she assisted us last summer, and we were very fortunate that she said yes, she would come back. And we are going to try and keep her for as long as we can, as long as there's some funds in the budget. But I'm trying to quantify the necessity for another full-time position in there. And I'm not certain if it will be at that level. I think that's actually gonna be a really good level. But that's the first step. So that's my update.
Thanks. Through the chair, just a question. Have you considered, or is there any potential for you to have the ability to hire under contract a writer for some of these policies and procedures and the manuals to give you assistance?
So under the AML contract that we're hoping to prepare, that is one of the services that I have listed, because what I've been doing is just, as we've been going on, so I've been creating documents as I can. I mean, as necessity requires, that's the first thing. But the second thing is, one of the strengths is, for the planning services, some of these departments, they have that. And so we'll be able to do that and not have to go out to do a complete request for proposal for a contract for an ongoing thing. This could be covered under there, and there's quite a few people from which we could choose under that contract. It's not gonna be just a one-type situation, but yes, absolutely.
So that'll be part of your work
Yes,
with
and
great.
It's really going to go well, as much as I've been saying how busy it is, this is actually working out really, really well with everything that's going on all at the same time. With the financial ERP coming, we're establishing processes that at this time, you get your conditional use permit, and that's going to trigger this, this, and this. We're gonna make sure we check this box. That's the type of policy and how it affects the other departments. If I go issue a temporary use permit to South Central Foundation after they left you guys, and I say, sure, go on ahead and let's start clearing the ground, because that's what happened. But then you say, wait a minute, we need to double check with the other departments and see, is that going to affect, did I just give you permission by doing so? And maybe they hadn't quite finished up with everything in the public works side of things, or maybe there was something in finance that, there was a LID or something. That's not this case, but those are the policies that we're working towards so that everybody can understand how everything fits together. And that was an excellent question.
Good Chair. Good report.
Thank you.
Again, I just caution you and the city. I just was in Abilene, and I was just in Tucson and other places. And I can tell you that there's cities now wishing they had slowed down their planning and their growth. Because once it's in place, it's kind of hard to undo, and they are finding water problems, drainage problems, sewer problems, because they built faster than their infrastructure could handle. And they had infrastructure, but as you add more stuff into that, the infrastructure needs to be improved, new infrastructure. And I remember being on city council, buying a new pump is not going down to Lowe's and buying a $100 pump. You're talking about $500,000 to $1 million to buy a new pump. So I guess being busy is good, but I can tell you, Anchorage and other places, and Tucson, you better apply for a permit 6 months to a year out and not 30 days out. So I hope we don't feel we have to approve a permit immediately just to satisfy, because the business world is in the business of making money. They are not in the business of thinking about what happened 10 years from now.
So one thing that I'd like to do, and I have to coordinate this, but to speak to the infrastructure side of things and how seriously I personally take this. I managed a sewer district in southeast Idaho for 10 years. And it is literally lifeblood, but that's a horrible example, but it really is.
It is.
And because if you don't have that, or if you break down, that means I'm on the front page of the Frontiersman. Because then you're having to do a workaround, or if something happens, then we've got really serious issues. And I'd like to get Director Shaw in to have him speak. I enjoy listening to him, first of all, but just to give an update on where those things stand. We're gonna hear a lot of it during budget. Then I highly suggest, because we do have the budget meetings that are starting, and I to everybody, you've been through the budget process, but there's some big, that's coming. And I'm really glad you said what you said, because it is quite possibly if we don't have the infrastructure in place, it's not good at all. We were just having this discussion this morning with a different entity, so.
It comes up because you mentioned the hotel, and most people think rooms, but they don't think about what happened in those rooms and how it affects the entire city. And
Yeah. I anticipate that many of these things, I don't know that I'll even have, well, I want to bring Director Shaw in here, but I know he's going to address this exact conversation during the budget process, when you see the budget the budget's released on tomorrow. Yeah, so that, because we're off kilter, because normally we're the day after, but they're next week. So everything gets released tomorrow. So you'll be able to see that and see everything.
Thank you very much. We do not have an attorney present for tonight's meeting, so we'll move to public participation. The next item on the agenda is public hearing. We do not have any items scheduled for public hearing tonight, so we move on to persons to be heard. We are now at persons to be heard, a time for members of the public to share their views with the Planning Commission. This is not a question and answer period or a time for dialogue. Speakers may be referred to administration, or issues raised may be taken under advisement by the commission or administration. Having no one to speak tonight, the next item of business.
Before we go to the agenda, am I allowed to ask the city administrator a question?
I think so.
Oh,
And we can ask her at the end too, but go ahead.
Commissioner Brown, could you give a brief update on the economic development? I know it wasn't expected, but
Maybe if we can do, like, you want to move to add it to the, or how do you, I'm just thinking,
I should have did it when we was up in the reports, but he went so fast.
I promise I'll slow down.
if we could.
We could do that then, I mean, whatever's.
We had talked about having her give an update at each of the either the first or the second meeting of the month, and even so right before the meeting I said, are you sure you don't, because she said, I'm going to come tonight, and I said, well, do you want to do the presentation
This
tonight?
is the first of the month.
Yeah, well, but there was some
I know.
And
PTO
it's
that
not
was,
in my script.
but we can do it. If you wanna
Otherwise,
do
I would have asked her
Yeah.
right
You can do a
after.
motion to amend the agenda.
I, Commissioner Brown, I motion to amend the agenda on the reports to allow city administrator to speak.
Do we have a second?
Commissioner Stafford, I second that.
Thank you, Chair. There's a lot happening, as you've just heard, from a lot of seeds that were planted a long time ago, probably before we even got here. And although sometimes we think Alaska is very unique and nobody else has these problems, after going to a couple conferences, this is what small cities are talking about. They don't have the water lines, they don't have the sewer, they don't have the telecom, and how do you exponentially speed it up to a point where you're going to meet the demands of the people that want to come into your cities. So I can tell you that Cindy, Planning and Economic Development are working very, very closely together to keep a pulse on where the growth is happening and how much of it is coming. The last we looked, as of the end of March, without the hotel, we had just under 300,000 square feet of new development coming on, which was about $300 million of capital. And we took that one step further and we started to talk to applicants about how many construction jobs and how many full-time or part-time jobs would that create? Because it's one of the metrics that Economic Development Administration wants us to keep for our SEDS. And so the end result of just those applicants is about 1,400 jobs full-time within the next 3 years. And those are good paying jobs, at least 100 of them. 125 are medical jobs. So those kind of indicators should trigger people to say, we're gonna need housing, we're gonna need transportation, we're gonna need all these amenities for these people that are moving out here. And we've also taken it one step further to say, not only are we getting permits for construction, but what about rezones? If there's a large 9-acre parcel that went from commercial zone to industrial zone, following up with them and saying, what's your plan? What do you plan to do with this? Or if it's going from PUD to commercial, what are your plans for this piece of property? So we're really being intentional about staying in contact and in dialogue with our customers. We just had one of our applicants come in today. They said, we're really excited about building in the city, but there's a couple challenges that we have we want to talk to you about. One of it was access, which, they're doing some studies. So I think that's really a result of planning having their door open and the city saying, come talk to us. This is all about partnerships. It's all about them understanding our process and us trying to emulate a process that works for them. So when you see this kind of growth in a matter of 3 years, that's pretty substantial. And like I said, we've been going out to conferences because we feel like we're the only ones on the planet experiencing this. And Henderson, Nevada was saying, oh, well, we're doing the same thing. How do we pay for a new sewer plant? How do we pay for these water extensions that go way beyond the city out to these new subdivisions? How much are we charging for connectivity? We also, at these conferences, have heard a lot about we got this grant for some extension and now we're not going to get the money. So how and we've hired contractors. I can tell you we are not in that situation. We actually have a philosophy that until we actually receive the money, we don't put out the contract to bid. I think that's an example of the conservative mindset here. But there is still a lot of uncertainty about where the funding is going to come. And I think that's not going to go away the next few years. We also heard a lot about emergency response. A lot of, whether you're Maryland or you're Podunk, Henderson, people are saying, what if we have an emergency? Who is going to pay for those? Do we have enough to do the initial recovery and the initial response? And how do all these agencies work together? It's something that we as a small city have to start thinking about. And are we prepared and practicing that? And Commissioner Brown, you have a great appreciation for that. It's something that the cities say, hey, well, our neighbor's going to protect us. No, we probably have to have our own plan. So, a lot of it is awareness. A lot of it is inviting these other cities to come to our city or we go to their city and really see what they're doing and building those relationships. We've got a lot of positive activity with our airport. We went and met with our delegation about our 20-year plan, about a $240 million investment. They're very, very impressed with the follow-through. They said do a master plan. We're 75% through the phase 2, which is the future use of the airport, including our environmental permitting, getting that done now, and being a regional airport. So we're getting a lot of traction. And I think it's an excellent idea. What Planner Wellman said is having Eric come in maybe once a meeting and giving us an update on infrastructure. My role has been to find the money and figure out how we're going to pay for it. His is how we're going to build it. And we are just some things to put on your calendar. We have the Matsu Spring Economic Summit, which is going to be April 23rd and 24th. Wasilla's turn to shine. We are going to talk about all of the business indicators, and then we're going to talk about later in the morning we're going to talk about why data matters. And Eric Shaw is going to show some of the maps that we've done for identifying fire hydrants, all of the water lines that we've mapped that we didn't know we had.
That's what I was.
Things, the data that matter, so he can make an educated decision on what we need for capacity and share it with future. Then on the next day, we're gonna actually give tours, so we're gonna take a group to see where the interconnect's gonna be, where we're gonna connect with Palmer for a backup water source or power, pressure. We're gonna go to the dispatch center, to the sewer plant, to Ski Talk, and then we're gonna have lunch up at the government peak. And so this is something that the city and the borough, City of Wasilla and the borough have sponsored, and so tickets are very minimal for 2 days. But if you wanna go, let me know, we have a table, and we'll get you on the, get you a seat, and then we'll also put you on the tour if you would like. The other thing is, April 15th is the State of the City that is at the Greater Wasilla Chamber of Commerce, and each of the departments are gonna give an update on where the city is for our projects. And so if you would like to be a part of our table, let me know and we'll put you down and you can join us for lunch. And that's my update.
23rd and 24th, where's the location?
It's gonna be at Evangelos. And the same with the State of the City.
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Brown, the reason I asked her to speak is because I'm seeing a lot of growth coming from our planner, but I also was familiar with the economic plan and knowing where that's going. And I just want the city commissioners to be aware before we start approving things, that it's more than just approving a new business to come into town, which sounds good to the tax base, but if it costs you 10 times as much tax to repair infrastructure because of that, we just need to be aware of those two things working together and not outpacing the other.
Thank you for your wisdom, Commissioner Brown. Okay, with no one wishing to speak, the next item of business is the consent agenda. Would the city planner please read the items for approval under the consent agenda into the record?
Thank you. We have the minutes of the preceding meetings, which is the regular meeting minutes of March 25th, 2025.
Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda as read?
I move we approve the consent agenda as read. Commissioner Stafford.
Commissioner Landshill, second.
Is there any discussion? Are there any objections to the motion? Hearing none, the motion is approved. We're now at new business. Tonight we have election of officers. Will the city planner please provide an update regarding the election of officers?
Thank you, Commissioner Seals. After our meeting that we had on the 25th, when we had our training, City Clerk Newman made mention of the fact that we had not had an election of officers since January of 2023. And when I got here, although I was here in January, that's when it would have normally happened. We had some of the staff who used to be on the planning staff here. Because of the change, we didn't do anything at that time. And then I did decide to wait until after everybody had gone through the training. After the meeting, however, I did approach Mayor Ledford and asked her, would she want to have this on the next agenda item, or would she prefer to defer until the January meeting? And she did ask me to put this on the agenda to go ahead and take care of this. And then in January, then we'll have another election of officers and we'll be back on schedule at that time.
Thank you. Do I have a motion for the nomination of chairperson?
Commissioner Stafford, I would move David Sills as chairperson.
Do I have a second?
Second, Commissioner Brown, second.
It has been moved by Commissioner Stafford and seconded by Commissioner Brown to nominate David Seals as chairperson. Is there any discussion?
Speech.
No.
Not yet. Not yet, wait a minute. Will the city planner call for a roll call vote?
Thank you, Commissioner Seals. Commissioner Brown?
Yes.
Commissioner Seals?
Yes.
Commissioner Langell?
Yes.
Commissioner DeYoung?
Yes.
And Commissioner Stafford?
Yes.
And that passes unanimously. Congratulations on your, and if you'd like to assume your seat. Or keep your,
Can I sit there? Okay, nomination of vice chairperson. Do I have a motion?
Commissioner Brown, I nominate Commissioner Stafford.
Chair Seals, seconds. It has been moved by Commissioner Brown and seconded by Commissioner Seals to nominate Mr. Stafford as vice chair. Is there any discussion? Will the city planner call for a roll call vote?
thank you, Commissioner Seals. Commissioner Brown?
Yes.
Commissioner Seals?
Yes.
Commissioner Langell?
Yes.
Commissioner DeYoung?
Yes.
And Commissioner Stafford?
Yes.
I vote for myself.
So I was with.
And that passes unanimously.
Thanks, everyone. We are now at communications.
Yeah, just one thing here. I wanted to note that if there had been another person, so the reason there were so many pages here is we had all the options on our script, depending on what could potentially happen here. But if a different chairperson had been nominated and it had passed that they were the new chairperson, we were going to wait until the next meeting, just for continuity purposes, for that person to assume the chair role.
Still do that.
Okay.
Thank you. We are now at communications. Are there any comments on the communications as presented?
Mr. Chair. Through the chair to the planner. I know we discussed this numerous times about the violations, but if the city issue a violation to a resident and they don't pay it, what happens?
Well, I had to think, this is Planner Wellman. I do believe that it then can be put on their PFD. It's my understanding, we had, when Deputy Administrator Nygaard was acting city planner, that exact situation is what ended up happening.
So,
And I thank
is
you
there
for that. I
anything-
need
Is
to,
there anything in between that from don't pay to PFD?
I think, well, it continues to accumulate. Some of them can be a daily charge. But yes, so thank you. I need to get up to speed on what happens as far as that's concerned. Do you happen to know, Deputy Administrator Nygaard?
Yeah, so part of, I think it was 2 years ago, Code compliance went over to the public safety side, primarily for this reason, because those fines go into the state database and they are treated just like a traffic violation or anything else. Yeah.
Thank you.
And through the chair, one other update though, I am still very mindful of the requests and suggestions with regards to the enforcement side. They are very much forefront. They're just being worked on, I guess is the best way to put it. Thank you. And not even changes, it's just expectations. This should be all in here, and we're gonna get that. Thank you.
Are there any comments, more comments on the communications items? Hearing none, we are now at audience comments, a time for members of the public to share their views with the commission. This is not a question and answer period or a time for dialogue. Speakers may be referred to administration, or issues raised may be taken under advisement by the council or administration. And seeing as there is no one here, we move on to comments. City Planner Wellman, do you have any comments this evening?
Just a reminder that the next meeting is on April 22nd, and I also encourage everybody to look at the budget calendar that's coming up. Those meetings are live, or you can come here in person. That might be, have a presence, I think might be good as well. Also, congratulations on your continued role in chair and chairperson or vice chairperson for both of you. And thank you to Deputy Administrator Nygaard for coming tonight. That was extremely valuable, so thank you. I appreciate that.
Thank you. Commissioner Brown, do you have any comments this evening?
Thank you, Chair. Thanks for both reports from the planner and the city administrator. And congratulations on you two for volunteering to take the role to lead us on forward. And looking forward to great things, and I encourage people, if they can get to the meeting on the 24th and 25th, I think you'll learn some interesting things about what's happening in the city. Thank you.
Commissioner Lengill, do you have any comments?
You'll get it right. Give you 3 years.
Yeah.
I just wanted to say, good reporting, Cindy, or the planner, and I appreciated Administrator Nygaard's spur of the moment, very informative information. Good meeting.
Commissioner DeYoung, do you have any comments?
My only comment is, do we get to know where this hotel's gonna go, or is that later? Later, okay.
This is Planner Wellman. Yes, that'll be forthcoming in the, and I think it hasn't been noticed yet, so I'm just gonna hold off just a second.
Okay,
Yeah.
well, that was the burning question I had for the evening.
Not
And-
now.
Status quo, yay, I love it.
Commissioner Stafford, do you have any comments?
Congratulations on your reelection to the chair, not just what you do here, but what you do in the community. I know you're very active. Thanks for the great reports. It's always nice to know what's going on. Initially I was bummed that there was no members of the community here, but maybe that's just him saying we're doing a good job and they have nothing to yell at us about. So I guess an empty room isn't a bad thing. So but that's it.
Chair Seals, my comments are, I personally was in the planning office when the help was licking the stamps and putting them on the envelopes.
You get them a thingy where you don't have to lick the stamp?
We do.
Yeah, no, they were stickers, but
Okay,
I
okay.
was just, but that in itself is a very time-consuming project. So, man hours, woman hours in the planning department is extremely critical, especially with the increase of the permits that we have. I'm going to suggest to City Council that they upgrade your budget so that you can get more help, be it either the Alaska Municipal League or another full-time person in the planning department. The city is growing rapidly, being wise and forthcoming about infrastructure needs in the future is critical. And like Commissioner Brown had said, those $1 million pumps not only are millions of dollars, but they could be anywhere from 6 weeks to 2 years to arrive on site.
Amen.
So having infrastructure backup and the knowledge of where all our infrastructure is extremely important. And lastly, I want to thank everybody for re-electing me as chair. I do my best, and that's all we can hope for. So with no further business at hand, I'm adjourning the meeting unless objection is raised.
I love the way you look at Commissioner Brown.
He hasn't
It's in the script. That's why I pick up the hammer, then I look at Commissioner Brown. All right, thank you very much. Hearing no objection, the meeting is adjourned at 6:49.